How you doing? This is another from New York. Uh, we're getting ready to go to the gala that's starting in a couple of hours, and we're just sort of washing up. But I thought it might be a good time to talk about what you'd like to see come out of Watches and Wonders for this reason. Uh, oh, how you doing, Brian? First of all, oh, good, 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 good. It's here we are. Yeah, it's really funny talking from here. I like my everything on all of my other devices at home. Okay. Anyway, what I thought we could do is like it's more of a wish list, and I'm wondering what how decisions are made of what watches are going to come out now. A, a company, a watch company that's going to stay in business. Yeah, I know. I'm not going over a minute today, Brian. Ah, geez, man. They got an hour happy hour, and I plan to use that happy hour to, as much as possible, talk about the our new watch that we have. Hey, Russell, how you doing? You got mentioned in. Oh, great. Well, thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Russell, where'd you go? Anyway, there you are. I'd love to see a 37 to 39 millimeter Vacheron Constantin overseas with a well proportioned movement with a Geneva seal. I think all of the overseas have the Geneva seal. Oh, no, 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 no. Brian, Watches and Wonders is um, is about they have that's when companies bring out all their new watches. Um, we're bringing ours out at the gala at the Horological Association. How you doing, Ali? Um, anyway, so I thought, well, this is a good time to talk about well, what watch. I mean, I say, look, this is the kind of watch I really want. And what David mentioned is that's a good example of that. The 2023 34.5 millimeter. Oh, it doesn't have a Geneva seal, and the movement is tiny, so it must not be the 5100 movement. Okay, thank you, David. Similar to the old Basil. Yeah, well, it is. It's sort of like yeah, I suppose it is. I think there's a whole lot of the Richemont was behind it, and eventually Swatch went along, and everybody else went along, Rolex, and so on and so forth. But you had a mention on this watch, that watch, about you can trust YouTube. Don't know if you saw it. No. Um, let's see. How? Oh, okay. I got something popped up here. On this computer, you're not going to get all the balloons and all of the other stuff that comes up on my other computer. Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that, Russell. Thank you. I'll have to check it out. This watch, that watch. Yeah, I've heard of them before. I don't know much about them though. I don't. You got to be careful talking about other people doing the same thing that you're doing. Because they may know something you don't know, or you may know. It's just, or you may be wrong about something. So I try not to say anything if it's sort of that thing. If you can't say anything good, don't say anything at all. I can even say something nice about Archie. Archie was, boy, years ago, he was the guy that a lot of us used to really begin to understand something, and then he sort of went off and does other kinds of things. Yeah, sorry, Brian. No bubbles, no hearts, no balloons, no thumbs up. Um, I guess that the what happens is that this is an older, uh, laptop. I've got one even older than this. Somehow I can't, you know, can't get rid of them. Um, I don't want to. That's the problem. That's the reality of it. Anyway, okay. What I would like to see is a. Oh, really? It's about a burglary. I didn't realize that. I thought it was more. He began really doing a lot of commercializing, and I think it's sort of somewhere around there he found that the numbers were more interesting with another approach. I think Archie too likes to see himself more as a performer than a watch geek, and that's okay. But like I said, I'm you know who am I to criticize anybody? Um, anyway, going back, what I would like to see is a regular watch that comes out with a Remontoir Galatea. That would be so cool. I mean, that I could afford. The last one, I think, that was released, I could be wrong about this, with a Gronfeld. That was about 4 or 5 years ago, I think. And they had this wonderful, just perfect little Remontoir, and that sold out, and that was the end of it. So, and it was something like 50,000 bucks that I couldn't afford anyway. Oh my God. Jeez. HRM. I'm hoping Universal Geneve doesn't release a watch yet. They should take their time and manufacture a movement. You know, we've been working with Larique, and I think we're starting work on our third movement. And a bunch of guys like us, we are working with a great movement maker in Agenor, but I mean, it would seem to me that if a bunch of guys like us, a bunch of watch collectors, could get together with a watchmaker, a movement maker in particular, they ought to be able to do something with them. I mean, they ought to be able to get a get one movement anyway. I agree with you, HRM, but if there one thing though I will say is, in that I'd like to see, I've got no problem with coming out with a new watch by a really good watchmaker like a Larique. I mean, a lot of the new watches are coming out with Larique modules. Some of them are coming out with whole movements. Uh, I think Agonor's, I think they'd be hard to top, but uh, someone could go and they could get a Vaucher movement and start the company on that, or get one from Crenode. Uh, there's some other really good movement makers, and it's sort of like, well, we got to have it in house. Well, if I've got no problem with a good movement. What my big problem has been is that they'll put a cheap movement in. They'll get an inexpensive Solita and put it in there and call it something else. There was a guy last year, Dumont watch that we reviewed, and this guy came out with this beautiful watch. It had a Solita movement. He told everybody that's what it was, and guess what? He sold out. He had 3 different batches, and he sold them all out. So that, not only was he honest about it, but he had, it was a really nice watch. He was part involved in the design and everything. And but on the other hand, you got a company. Wasn't um, Universal? Weren't they bought by somebody? Parmigiani does, yeah. Yeah, that'll be interesting too. It's I suppose it depends a lot on what the, Sandoz Foundation Family Foundation does, because they're the ones that not only they own Parmigiani, they own, Vaucher as well. Maybe, one of the things would be really interesting if Hermès, who owns, what, 25% of Vaucher, said, yeah, I guess the Sandoz family is tired of putting up with, with watchmaking, and they want to go back into something that makes a whole lot of money. I forgot what it was, probably pharmaceuticals, but I could be wrong. Um, they may, the people looking for the bottom line, their stockholders and their board of trustees may say, look, this is enough of monkeying around with, these watches and these watchmakers. I don't know. Be interesting to see. Didn't Breitling buy Urban Jurgensen? No, that was no wait, UG, uh, Universal Geneve. It could have been them, but yeah, I think it was, as a matter of fact. It's a question I had. Why don't they make their own movement? They finally ended up with two movements. They both were involved Tudor. Uh, One they sort of made and Tudor used it. Another one Tudor made and they used it. They both claimed it was in-house. Was Tudor has had in-house movements for a long time, but they've also had other types of movement in there. Yeah, yeah, that was Tudor and Canisi. Yeah. Hey, Ronan. Yes, Breitling bought Universal Geneve. See, how can you? It's sort of like it took Breitling a long time to quote get their house in order, so to speak. And they were perfectly happy giving what they called like a B type of reference name to their movement that was made by ETA. And you have to know all of the different codes that Breitling has. So I sort of like I, I have no idea what they had in mind. Maybe Breitling is looking to have something, like let's use uh, Universal Geneve is sort of like a testing thing. We can maybe test some stuff there. It's hard for me to believe. Well, it's not hard, but I mean, it's after all of the years that Breitling hasn't come up with more than what they have as far as movements are concerned. Hey, Dan. Uh, from Rolex, I'd love to see a return to the old Coke bezel. I like that bezel too. I like that as well. The old Coke one. I like that. Not a big modern Rolex fan, but that's one I've been waiting for. Hey, Michael, have a good time at the gala tonight. I will. Hey, do you guys know anybody other than me that's going? I mean, like they sold out. Somebody's got to know somebody. Um, yeah, they did. Patek also rumored to be releasing a whole new line of watches. Yeah, I um, I have lost somehow. I lost total interest in Patek Philippe, and I just see it. You're going to start taking shortcuts with silicon. Then what next shortcuts are gonna follow after that? That's sort of the view I have. Even though they've got these great movements right up to the hairspring, and then that thing is set up. So sort of like having a 1920 Ford with a 2024 Mercedes-Benz engine in it in a lot of ways. That's the way I look at it. But that's my perspective. practical perspective in terms of somebody buying a watch to say, look, I just want a watch that keeps good time. And everyone will go, ooh, oh, when they see my Patek Philippe. That's what they're having now, as opposed to, let's see what we can do with traditional horology. Very few companies are doing that, except some of these small independents, and they'll go out and they'll do something really cool. A gala for New York socialites and high rollers. Michael, do I look like a high roller? they they got one low roller in there, a miss. Hi, Belina 123. Hola, ¿cómo está? Welcome, bienvenidos to sort of the wandering. I'm actually going to Watches and Wonders on Sunday. Oh, good. Hey, listen, when you go, and this is for everybody going to Watches and Wonders, give us a report. Tell us what's going on. We're really interested in hearing it. You're so excited. It's my first time. I've heard that line before in a different context. It's my first time. Sorry. Okay. I'll get back on this is a G-rated program. Um, what other things could they do? What I like to see, another thing is sort of like coming out with an entry level, and there's really I think um, a good reason for a watch company is coming out with an entry level. I think Vacheron Constantin's 56, brilliant move. I think pioneer in the H. Moser. Trying to think what else. There used to be a watch like you used to be able to buy like an Air King or a Oyster Perpetual or one of those for fairly recent price, but they all got jacked up after the pandemic. And I'd like to see somebody say, well, let's come out with one that the average guy can buy, and once he gets hooked, then we'll give him the real stuff. that Anyway, somebody will come out and they'll buy a $5,000 watch, or maybe they'll buy one for 10. If they buy it for 10, maybe 20, and so forth. I don't know. Oh, hey, have you seen? Yeah, oh, they already released it, didn't they? Um, H. Moser has that really gorgeous lime green Pioneer. There may have more than that, but that's one thing. That's a honey of a watch. I'd love to have that. I think, Brian, I don't think they would just release there are other I think there are other venues that may have just for the movement, but I'm not sure. This is for usually with you'll have a new movement with a new watch and a new everything. Hi, Finnegan, the Ninja. A Zenith Defy El Primero 21 with a carbon bracelet would be really cool. Yeah, I'm not. Some interesting things have been done with carbon, and so it's not something I would dismiss. But boy, carbon bracelets will look really nice. Um, who's had them for a long time is the J12 by Chanel. They got the black ones, the guy's version of the J12, and then it's got the Finissi movement in it. It's called the 12.1, which is based on the Tudor, based on a Tudor movement. A production piece and Moser Vanta Black. Yeah, that's I don't how do you get blacker than black? Uh, what I do when I'm dealing with colors, I still go back to the old ASCII numbers. In other words, that using a 256 Well, I think it's probably higher than that now. They had 256 numbers in programming, and you wanted a certain color, you just put in the number for that. Like black is 000 and white is FFF. And how do they get darker than 000? I don't know. Is carbon brittle like ceramic? This is a thing, Brian. Apparently, ceramic and carbon both, they're doing a lot of modern things with it that it's, as they say, it's not like our grandfather's carbon. Um, Carol Forstier Casapi at Tag Heuer, I understand she was working on a carbon hairspring. I'm not sure how I feel about a carbon hairspring because I think it probably, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see if Kasapi can come up with one. But I know that she was working on one or working with some people who are working on one. Somehow carbon I don't have a problem with. Maybe I spent too much time with computers, and that's why I get freaked by silicon. Carbon, on the other hand, yeah, the carbon dating and everything like that. Okay, what are some other things that would be cool to see? There are all kinds of things. It's all shut up for a second. What do you guys? What would you say? Hey, this looks like something I'd really like to see at Watches and Wonders. Maybe a new tutor advisor alarm. That would be a nice one. Putting in a little an alarm module. You know what I would like is something Jaeger-LeCoultre coming and saying, you know what, that geophysic line really it was important for us to have. We're going to bring it back. And Rolex say, I, we don't have any hand wound watches, so maybe we ought to bring a Prince back and gear it down to 3 hertz. That'd be great. Hey, Allie, Larique makes a watch sub 5K. Nope, they don't. A new JLC with ultra thin movement. That would be another nice thing. I, you know, what I really want is this. We might have to make it ourselves. I can, I have to talk a lot of people into it. And that's a watch with that movement like the Langenheim Georg, where you can see all of the gear train starting up. You can see how in the back. Just flip it over in the back, and you can see from the barrel down to the escapement and all of the connections in between. It's just really a gorgeous watch. You flip the watch over on the dial side, there's this gorgeous, it looks like any gorgeous watch. And I wish some more of that. I think that Chopek had their first actual that they did the whole movement themselves, used all these finger bridges for the wheel train movements. It really opens it up a lot. Hi, Finnegan. A vintage Rolex 6538 release would be really cool. A Rolex would never be that bold. I don't know. Rolex is. I think Rolex has a winning formula, and they're not going to change it unless there's a good reason to. I mean, why would they? They have the most popular watch in the world, probably, and it just doesn't make any sense to change it a whole lot. What worries me is that finally some bean counter is going to talk them into using the silicon hairsprings they have. Why don't you do that? Then you don't have to worry about the magnetization. I hope that doesn't happen. The parachrome hairspring, I think they probably realize they don't need silicon. That's my hope for Rolex. Hey, Mr. Gumby, how you doing? Missed most of the chat, but I'd like to see more jumping hour watches come out. That would be nice. I like those too. A triple calendar Daytona would sell like, oh, just about anything that Rolex sells would sell like hotcakes. Affordable watches with a nice movement. You know, Ali, that is something, that's a project I'd like to take on myself. I've got some ideas on that with a really one of the top watchmaker movements. I'm thinking of that. Chopard really surprised me last year with the issue of the LUC 1860 with a beautiful salmon guilloche dial. Really interested to see they keep the momentum coming. Chopard is sort of one to figure out. They have some good watches, some reasonable prices. They had the Miguel Amelia was it ran on an ETA, but it was a really interesting watch with the tire track band and sort of a real watch that was made purpose built for for motorheads. Nice one. A watch under 3,000 with top tier movement would be interesting. That is possible. It really is. Um, it's not easy. Sub 5,000 is a little easier, but I think sub 3,000 is possible too, maybe. I think that would be more like a project watch, something that a bunch of guys that have to get together and do on their own. And HRM, you're just a man to do it, I think. What would be some other nice things that they might come up with? You know what I would like to see? I would like to see Rolex come out with a high horology watch. Say, we got rid of the Cellini and this and that. We just say we want to come up with something that's just like top dog, get a Geneva seal for it and have that. And then all the critics, what could they say? That might be a nice thing. No, I'm still hoping to get together with sort of kidnap Daniela Dufour and uh, the Vitarek brothers and say, okay, you three, let's get together and get a really cool watch. Can Larique make a watch kit movement dial that we can put together ourselves? I don't think they're doing that. Ali, what Larique is, what we do is that we try to create watches with this unique movements with Agonor because as they actually make movements, new movement, and so it's sort of like the last part is put together is that can be dicey in this respect is that the case, the movement, the hands, the dial, the strap, the buckle, all of that goes together, put together by a company called Made. And they do a great job of it. And then they do all the testing and everything. But my God, I tell you, if somebody had to put the whole watch together, first of all, it wouldn't save that much money. That's one thing, because that's just the assembly of the watch assembly. And it wouldn't save that much. Hey, Paulo, wait a minute, wait a minute. I got what kids from Groenfeld? I think kids from Agonor and kids from Dufour. That would be my choice. Um, anyway, guys, well, listen, my time is up. I got a boogie. I'm going off, and I will have a report on next week sometime after when I recover from this trip and tell you guys all about it. So take care, have a great weekend, and I'll report.